On Monday, Syrian protesters burned U.S. flags and attacked the U.S. embassy compound in the capital Damascus. In Washington, D.C., the U.S. further burned its bridges with the Syrian government. Clinton's comments mark a shift in U.S. policy towards the Syrian government. Even after almost 4 months of protest and crackdown, the U.S. had refrained from questioning President Assad's legitimacy to rule. Now they did.
President Assad is not indispensable, and we have absolutely nothing invested in him remaining in power.
The Syrian government has strongly condemned Hillary Clinton's statement and calls it a provocation amounting to incitement. Clinton was reacting to attacks on the U.S. embassy compound in Damascus on Monday, but the Syrian government and its supporters say the U.S. is meddling in internal Syrian affairs.
Who allowed them to interfere in our affairs? Who gave them permission to go to Hama? We are the ones who decide what we want.
What triggered the crisis was a visit by the U.S. and French ambassadors to the Syrian city of Hama, the center of protest against the government. The ambassadors' meeting with the opposition and the protesters there outraged the government in Damascus. The U.S. says the visit was meant to show solidarity with the protesters and their right to express their demands. The French government has accused the Syrian government of failing to adequately protect its embassy in Damascus. The French had been pushing hard for the UN Security Council to issue a resolution condemning the Syrian government's use of violence. Now, the escalation of rhetoric between Syrian and U.S. officials could signal further action by the U.S. and the international community to isolate the country even further. But whether that will push the Assad government to use more violence against the protesters or succumb to pressure and push for more reforms is what most Syrians are anxiously waiting to see. Meanwhile, consultations to hold a national dialogue sponsored by the government and boycotted by the opposition concluded its work on Tuesday. It's now calling on the opposition to talk to the government on how to reform the country. No date was set for a national dialogue, but the participants emphasized only dialogue can resolve the crisis in Syria. They have also called for the release of political prisoners and say the end goal is to transform Syria into a democratic state. Rula Amin, Al Jazeera, Beirut.